All right, today we're going to talk about something really fascinating, Islamic philosophy. But I want you to think about it in a new way, as an intellectual operating system. Basically, the powerful software a whole civilization has used to try and make sense of, well, everything.
You know, every single one of us, every culture in history eventually gets around to asking these massive questions. Why are we even here? What is all this stuff around us? What is existence? These aren't just things you wonder about late at night. They are the absolute engine of all philosophy. And the Islamic tradition? It built its own really unique and powerful way of tackling them head-on.
So yeah, let's dive into this operating system. We're going to see how this tradition created a complete intellectual toolkit for questioning and investigating the very nature of existence itself.
So, what does an intellectual operating system actually do? Well, just like on your computer, it runs a bunch of different apps and makes them work together. Think of things like logic, the study of reality, spirituality, and ethics. It integrates all of them into one single coherent worldview. It's really the process of using disciplined, rigorous reason to explore life's biggest questions.
Now let's get one major thing out of the way right now. There's this common idea that Islamic philosophy was just, a translation service, that they just copy-pasted a bunch of stuff from the ancient Greeks like Aristotle and Plato. But that's not the real story at all. The reality is that it was a super dynamic, creative, and critical reconstruction of knowledge. They took older ideas and built something new and distinctly Islamic on top of them. So, if it's so unique, where does this operating system get its source code? The answer is pretty cool. It's this amazing blend of reason that is firmly anchored in revelation.
Okay, so the bedrock, the absolute foundation, comes from these core principles in the Quran. Right at the top, you've got Tawḥīd. Now that means divine unity, but it's a huge concept. It's the idea that all of reality, everything, comes from a single unified source. So everything is interconnected. That's the main organizing principle for everything else. And from that, you get these other key ideas, that the universe isn't just some random accident, it has a purpose, that humans are actually told they have to use their reason to figure things out, and that the choices we make, our actions, they have real cosmic weight.
And this right here, this sums up the whole attitude. In this framework, reason isn't the enemy of faith. It's not some intruder trying to mess things up. No, it's seen as a divinely given tool, a gift we're meant to use to better understand the world and even the divine.
So what's in the philosopher's toolkit here? Well, it's this really powerful hybrid method. They start with the precision of Aristotelian logic. Then they use rational proof to build strong, certain arguments. But, and this is key, they don't stop there. They also value intuitive knowledge, that gut feeling for getting deeper insights. And all of it stays grounded in scriptural reasoning. So it's both super analytical and deeply visionary at the same time.
Okay, so with that solid foundation in place, these philosophers just went for it, tackling the biggest questions you could ever imagine. Let's do a quick little tour of some of the main things they were obsessed with.
First and foremost, maybe the biggest question of them all, what is actually real? This is the world of metaphysics.
At its core, Islamic metaphysics is totally fascinated with the study of being or existence itself. The term they use is wujud. They see this whole hierarchy of existence, from lifeless matter at the bottom, moving up through plants, animals, and us humans, all the way to God at the very top. And they make this absolutely crucial distinction. God is the necessary being, the only thing that has to exist. Everything else, the entire universe, including you and me, we're contingent. Our existence completely depends on that one original source.
Which, of course, leads to the next logical question. Okay, great, but how do we know any of that for sure? How do we know anything, really? And that takes us to epistemology.
What's so interesting here is that the tradition says there are multiple valid ways to find truth. You've got knowledge that comes from pure, hard reason. You've got knowledge that comes from divine revelation. But then there's this third path, a kind of direct spiritual intuition, an unveiling of reality they call kashef. The most important part is that these are not seen as competing against each other. They're complementary. They're all different roads leading to the same mountaintop, each giving you a piece of the puzzle.
So, if you know what's real, and you have an idea of how you know it, that leads directly to the most practical question of all. Given all this, how are we supposed to live our lives?
In this system, ethics is way more than just a list of do's and don'ts. It's about achieving what you might call metaphysical alignment. The whole goal is to purify the soul, to connect what you know with what you do, and to build a stable, virtuous character. And remember how we said the universe is seen as having purpose and order? Well, the key idea here is that when you achieve moral excellence, your own inner self starts to reflect the harmony and order of the entire cosmos. Pretty cool, huh?
Now, I really want you to understand that this was not some quiet, monolithic tradition where everybody held hands and agreed. No way! It was a tradition forged in the fire of intense debate, where intellectual tension was actually seen as the spark for progress.
This is a core feature, not a bug. The system wasn't afraid of tough questions or clashing ideas. Actually, it was the opposite. It embraced disciplined, structured disagreement as the absolute best way to sharpen ideas and get closer to the truth.
And man, did they debate everything. You had major thinkers on one side arguing the universe has always existed, and just as many on the others saying it was created at a specific point in time. You had huge debates about free will versus determinism. These weren't little academic squabbles. These were colossal intellectual battles that defined the tradition for hundreds of years.
So the big takeaway is this: the tension, the arguments. That wasn't a problem to be solved. It was seen as the very engine that powered the whole philosophical enterprise forward.
I know what some of you might be thinking. This is all cool, but it's ancient history, right? Why should I care today? Well, what's amazing is how much this is still a living, forward-looking discipline.
The applications today are just huge. I mean, think about our struggles with the ethics of AI and biotech. This tradition has deep frameworks for that. It offers centuries of thought on political reform and what makes a just government. Its ideas about reality can actually engage with modern physics and cosmology. It provides a really sophisticated model for how faith and science can talk to each other. And on a personal level, it's just this incredible resource for thinking about moral leadership and building character.
When you boil it all down, its real, lasting power is that it does something pretty remarkable. It harmonizes faith, reason, and spiritual insight. It doesn't make you choose. Instead, it weaves them all together to build this incredibly robust, high-level ability to think critically about the world.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question. If philosophy really is the intellectual operating system for an entire worldview, what happens to a worldview that doesn't have one? Does it just freeze up or crash when it has to deal with life's biggest updates and challenges? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.